Good evening. My name is Bruce Gillette, and I am currently serving as the moderator of Presbyterians for Earth Care. My wife, Carolyn Winfrey Gillette, and I are pastors in Owego, New York, just south of the Finger Lakes. We are very happy to have so many wonderful people from across the country gathering here this evening, and we expect a few more to join us as the evening goes along. We do ask you to mute if you're not asking a question so we have the best possible recording. And we hope you will share this recording when it gets posted on YouTube so that we can spread the word of a variety of creative ideas. I'd like to begin this evening with a prayer, and it is not an original one. There's a guy in Italy who's done some good environmental work. Let's see if I can pull it up. And his encyclical was actually commended by the Presbyterian General Assembly that met in Portland, Oregon. We were encouraged by the Presbyterian National Governing Body to study Francis's encyclical. So let's join together in prayer. All powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace us with tenderness, you embrace with your tenderness all that exist. Pour out upon us the power of your love that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature. As we journey toward your infinite light, we thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. And all God's children say, Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Well, we are very grateful for you all coming this evening and for those who will be watching this recording later. We have a series of people who will share some creative ideas on not only saving energy for church electric and fuel bills, but more importantly, caring for God's creation along the way. And I'll give you a hint of one thing we're going to close with. We'll ask people if they'd like to share creative Christmas ideas that relate to caring for God's creation. For all you last minute shoppers, you might get an idea or two. So think about maybe something you'd like to share at the end of this. But for starters, we are very blessed to have one of the national leaders for Interfaith Power and Light. I believe she is based out in California, and she is a very gifted and knowledgeable teacher in all things environmental and is the leader for IPNL in their Cool Congregations program. Sarah, take it away, please.
Thank you, Bruce, for that lovely introduction. Yes, my name's Sarah Paulos. I'm the program director for Interfaith Power and Light. And I'd like to acknowledge that where I am here in Bozeman, Montana, I work remotely. Their main office is in California and Washington, D.C. So where I'm in Bozeman, Montana, as part of every other part of the country, we're on indigenous land. And the valley where I live used to be the hunting ground for 7 major tribes. I'm not going to name them all. And we're buried in feet of snow right now. Ooh. So yes, I would like to tell you about Cool Congregations. It's one of the programs that IPL offers, and I'm going to share my slides here. Let's see. I think this is where I'm at. Nope, sorry, hang on, folks. I'll get it. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it right now. Well, I see that.
I'm just trying to move these pictures out of the way. There we go. Alrighty. Sorry, I thought it was all queued up there. Here we are. So, Cool Congregations. It's a unique Earth stewardship program for faith communities, and it started out with Iowa IPL, where it was used by about 350 congregations. It's a program that I started at my own home congregation in Iowa, and it really spread. And now, it's a program of Interfaith Power and Light National with congregations all over the nation using these resources to reduce their emissions. And the program helps congregations to reduce their energy bills of their facilities and engages their members in reducing their carbon footprint at home. The program educates, inspires, and saves money too. And we've got lots of resources. We've got startup kits, calculators, a certification process, and a contest that awards $1,000 in 6 categories. So I'll start with the first one, the startup kit. You can download this free startup kit from our website called 5 Steps to Become a Cool Congregation. It includes information on how to form a strong green team and inspire your congregation, has suggestions for projects, what other congregations have done, and it has resources for action, including the popular 25 steps under $25 and 25 steps over $25 to save energy in your congregation, and how to apply for the Cool Congregation certification. And you can use the calculators. That's the next thing I'll talk about to measure your carbon footprint. We've got 2 of them. We've got one for your congregational facility and one for your household. The congregational facility one, where you're looking at it right now, we measure the amount of fuel used to heat, cool, and power your buildings, plus water, waste, and recycling. That's for your congregational facility. And we look at transportation, staff work-related miles, and travel by congregants to worship. We measure food and procurement. And you download the checklist to answer the questions before entering them into the online calculator to make it easier to work. And this calculator offers a really handy progress report that you can download and share with others at your congregation. It shows your progress from one year to the next. And the household calculator measures the same categories: travel, home, food, shopping. And it has a long list of ideas for potential actions one could take at home to reduce their carbon emissions and energy use. And you can use this calculator to engage your congregants in this activity. And if your congregation has already taken steps to reduce your energy use and carbon emissions, you can apply to be a certified Cool Congregation. That is a program that goes on all year long. We have 9 certified Presbyterian congregations, including Woods Memorial Presbyterian Church. They cut their energy use in half, mostly through energy efficiency. They're located in Severna Park, Maryland. We also have Cross Lake Presbyterian as a 100% reduction congregation in Minnesota, and Mount Auburn in Cincinnati, Ohio. So if you get certified, IPL will send you this frameable certificate and this window cling sign, and you can opt in for a fancy eco-friendly bamboo plaque to commemorate your success. And more importantly for us, we will share your story on our website through social media and other networks to encourage other congregations to follow your example. Now, the Cool Congregations Challenge, this is our annual contest. That's different than certification. We use this to recognize congregations that are becoming energy efficient and sustainable role models in their community. There are no fees to enter. And you can see the deadline is December 15th, which is today. The deadline is midnight tonight, your time. And the winners will be announced in February. And we've got 6 categories. Cool Congregations Planner, if you've got a plan but haven't started yet, or if you have started, you're not quite done. energy saver, renewable role model for solar, wind, geothermal, sacred ground steward, covering all kinds of things you do with your grounds, community inspiration, includes congregations that inspire their congregants to save energy at home and to help their communities transition away from fossil fuels to clean energy. And electric vehicle leader, that's the newest category. And that covers congregations that have put in charging stations or who have done outreach or who have educated and advocated for electric vehicles. We have had many Presbyterian congregations apply for this contest and win. So if you have a project in mind, go ahead and apply. So you can use these cool congregation resources from Interfaith Power and Light to engage your congregation and your members in caring for the earth. And I just wanted to address one more thing that we've just started working on. The Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA that was signed into law in August of 2022, included the greatest investment in climate care provisions in history. And the provisions put the nation on the path to cut greenhouse gas emissions up to 44% by 2030, while saving thousands of lives, creating millions of good-paying clean energy jobs, investing in environmental justice, and reducing energy bills for working families across the country. Included in the IRA are clean energy tax credits for wind and solar, EVs, efficiency upgrades, heat pumps, and much more. Before the IRA, only homeowners and commercial entities with tax liability could claim these credits. But now the direct pay option means non-taxable entities such as congregations can also benefit from these credits. And the other part of the law, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, it's called the IIJA, provides the DOE with $50 million over 5 years for a new program called the Energy Efficiency Materials Pilot Program for nonprofit organizations. And this will provide grants of up to $200,000 to nonprofits such as churches to improve the energy efficiency of their facilities. This program is currently still being developed, but it's expected that by February of 2023, the program details will be available. So here's an IPL resource. It's called a Faith Community Resource Spreadsheet that will help you identify federal grant and tax credit opportunities that are available for nonprofits such as churches. And we'll keep this spreadsheet up to date as new program guidance becomes available. It's on our website, and I will share the link to it in the chat when I'm done talking. And also I'll send it to you, Bruce, if you want to send it out to all the people on the webinar.
We'll be happy to do that.
That is fantastic. So here's a little advice while you're waiting for these program details to become available. You can get ready. So benchmark your buildings, look at your 12 months of utility bills, find out the square footage of your building, use IPL's cool congregations calculator to measure your carbon footprint so that you have a benchmark to begin with. Another thing you can do is research other sources of funding to go along with any federal funding that you take advantage of. So look at your state options, local options, look at what your utility company has to offer. You might even want to get an energy audit from your local utility company. Sometimes they require an audit for you to qualify for any incentives they may have. And of course, research your denomination's resources for financing. I learned recently that the United Church of Christ has a fund called the Cornerstone Fund, where they offer loans that serve all congregations, even if they're not UCC. And there's one other thing I wanted to share here. IPL and our partners are hosting a series of briefings online in 2023 that will provide updates on these federal programs, how congregations can use them, and how to apply. So make sure you're on our IPL list to receive notices, or check our events page on our website. And you can also view the recording of the December 8th briefing that we had with our partner EESI on both of these programs. They shared what they know so far. So I just want to tell one more story. I meant to tell this at the beginning. When I first started this work in 2007, everywhere I went to give workshops, I always lifted up the Presbyterians, because your denomination was the first to pass a resolution calling for all of your congregational buildings to go carbon neutral. That was way back in 2007. And I just thought that was so remarkable and such a great example. And at one of my presentations, a Presbyterian came up to me and said, well, you know, Presbyterians are great at passing resolutions, but we're not so good at follow through. And, you know, I just laughed at the time. But if that was the case, I must say, judging by the entries in our challenge and for certification and the other news I've seen, you Presbyterians have really gotten up to speed. And I just want to congratulate you and offer our resources to help you in any way we can. So here's my contact information: programs at interfaithpowerandlight.org. And feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to reply. So thanks so much, Bruce.
Thank you. And all the information you share with us, we will be sharing with everyone who's registered for this. We will also put links when we post the video of this. We'll have links to a variety of resources, including the ones you just shared with us. While you were talking, I did put the link in for the Cool Congregations Startup Kit on your website. That's probably the first one people should look at, right? As far as, and that'll direct them to a variety of other places to check things out. Okay, we will give a chance for questions and answers. Just to give you a heads up, not to be answered right now, Sarah, but people were asking, how does the Cool Congregations program compare, I don't know if you can answer it, to the Presbyterian Earth Care Congregation program? There are similarities, but maybe a few nuanced differences. Charmel was going to share something, a friend of yours from Arkansas IPNL, and also a member of the steering committee for Presbyterians for Earth Care. She's going to share a helpful article she came across. Charmel, are you somewhere there? Hold up your hand.
I didn't know I was up next, and I'm getting ready to place a link in the chat, and it is 15 ways that you can cut your heating bill, because I think that's something that people are paying attention to right now, how much it's costing to heat their homes and their church buildings. So you can take a look at that link. I'll tell you, I won't spend a whole lot of time telling you what it says, because you can read it for yourself, but it does have some things that that will help people in their homes and their churches. And of course, cutting our energy costs when it comes to heating starts with adjusting the thermostat. So that means we have to do some things like dress in more layers, open our blinds to let sunlight in the house, replace our filters regularly, reduce the use of vent fans, which was a new one to me. And if you do these things, if you add insulation, and if you clear furniture from around the vents, close your fireplace damper, wrap your vent ducts, all of those kinds of things are on this list. But if you can just change your thermostat 5 degrees cooler every night, you can save 10 to 12% on your heating bill. So I think, you know, as time moves along, we're going to be paying more and more for our heating and all forms of energy. And so I just thought that that might be something on people's minds right now. You know, what's going to happen with our heating bills this winter? It's going to be really cold, and those bills are starting to come in. So, and we can talk more about that later during the question and answer period, if you like.
Thank you very much. Next up is Jerry Van Martyr, who is the stated clerk of Mid-Kentucky Presbytery. Presbyterians who have been around for a little while remember Jerry was a longtime part of our national staff and frequent contributor as the coordinator for the Presbyterian News Service. And he blessed not only the denomination, but Presbyterians for Earth Care for a number of his reporting over the years about environmental concerns. This evening, he comes wearing the hat of the stated clerk of one of the most creative presbyteries in the Presbyterian Church in mid-Kentucky, and he'll share what they have done, which has made a remarkable difference in that region of our country and truly helped the churches. Jerry, could you raise your hand or let them, if you raise your hand, that puts you at the top of the gallery and that will allow Mindy to maybe highlight you, or you can just start talking.
I'll start talking. Did that bump me up to the top? Thanks, everybody. It's good to be with you. For the past 7 years, I've been stated clerk of the Presbytery of Mid-Kentucky, which is 46 churches that stretch from the northern border of Kentucky with the state of Indiana and about south to about 2/3 of the way down Kentucky in the heart of the state. So central Kentucky is where our churches are. About a year ago, we were contacted by a nonprofit in the state of Kentucky called Evolve Kentucky. Evolve Kentucky. Evolve Kentucky is started out as an association of electric car owners. So just out as an electric car club and has rapidly expanded. And we partnered with them on one of their most creative programs beginning about a year ago. What we do is through Evolve Kentucky, congregations in the Presbytery Mid-Kentucky are able at virtually no cost to themselves to install electric vehicle charging stations somewhere on their church property. Evolve Kentucky makes available the charging stations virtually at cost and is responsible for the installation of the charging stations and for regular checkup and maintenance of the electric car charging stations. We have funded this program. Each station costs the presbytery about $5,000 to install, and we have a sliding scale of grants available to congregations that we are making these funds available for congregations that want to install the car charging stations out of a legacy fund that was left to the presbytery when one of our congregations closed. And so we created a $96,000 fund and made those funds available in grants of up to $9,000 to congregations that agreed to work with Evolve Kentucky to install car charging stations somewhere on their church property. To date, out of our 46 churches, we have 9 of them, nearly 25%, between 20 and 25% of our congregations have taken advantage of this program and have car charging stations installed somewhere on their church property. Most of those congregations are in Louisville. We have one rural congregation that probably serves a couple of counties. And our presbytery camp is also a site of one of the electric vehicle charging stations. So we have these things all over. Can I screen share, Bruce?
We can make sure you can if you, I think you can, try it.
Okay.
Everybody can screen share.
Okay. Yeah, I've got I thought I had it all queued up and ready to go. This may not work, Bruce. I don't know. There we go. Everybody see that now? Can you see the photo?
Yes, looks
Yeah.
good.
This is in the parking lot of the Bardstown Road Presbyterian Church in Louisville. Bardstown Road Presbyterian Church, their parking lot fronts one of the 2 or 3 main drags in Louisville. And on a typical day, you will see a constant stream of vehicles pulling into the Bardstown Road Presbyterian Church parking lot to charge their vehicles. My congregation is another one of the congregations that has car charging stations, but our parking lot is tucked away back behind the building, and nobody would even know it was there. So we've put up signage to direct people to the car charging station in our congregation. One of the largest congregations in the presbytery, Highland Presbyterian Church in Louisville, shares a parking lot with a social service agency building, a large social service agency facility, and 3 different apartment complexes. So those are the 5 entities that all have a stake in this large parking lot, and they got together and agreed to put in the vehicle charging stations right in the middle of this parking lot that serves 3 apartment buildings, a social service agency, and Highland Presbyterian Church. That's another one that is used heavily. But this is all a partnership with a statewide nonprofit working with Mid-Kentucky Presbytery, using funds from a church that closed, that established a legacy fund on its closure for the presbytery to administer. And we've committed $96,000 to this program and are currently have multiple car charging stations in 9 of our congregations, our presbytery camp. I'd be happy to answer any questions when that rolls around, but that's the program.
You are having some in the chat to prepare for, Jerry, so you can check those out and be ready when it's your turn again. Next, I'd like to invite Robin Blakeman, who is in West Virginia. We might associate that state with Cole, but Robin has been working with some creative churches and is going to talk a bit about going solar. Robin, take it away.
Hi, everyone. You hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Robin Blakeman, as Bruce said, and I have many hats that I wear in my professional life. One is that I am the West Virginia Interfaith Power and Light Steering Committee member. I helped found that organization several years ago. And I am the Executive Director of Energy Efficient West Virginia. I'm also an ordained Presbyterian minister, minister member at large with a validated ministry, doing what I do with West Virginia IPL and EEWV in the West Virginia Presbytery. So that's who I am. I am speaking tonight about a couple of success stories that we've had in West Virginia with solar installation. And I'm going to try to share some pictures. This was kind of a last minute thing that agreed to do with Bruce here. Okay, you might recognize this a little bit as I believe the cover photo was taken from it for this event. This is Spencer Presbyterian Church in a very rural part of West Virginia. They were the second Presbyterian church to go solar in West Virginia. So I guess my key message tonight is, if it can be done there, it can be done anywhere. This church had only, I believe, about 10 to 12 active members when they went solar. But what they also had was the county's only pre-K daycare center So it's a very important resource for the community to have children in that building every day of the week. The elders of this church made the decision to go solar to help ensure that those children had a better future and a more secure energy source for their daycare. So it's a very admirable decision. And I wish someone from that church was on tonight. I'm not sure if Mary Quick made it. She's one of the elders there, but if she is, she deserves a lot of kudos for this. Let me see if yes, here we go. Here's the other success story that I have been somewhat involved in. This is Glenville Presbyterian Church, also in a rural part of West Virginia. This church is, there's a small college there, Glenville State, and they have a very active music program connected to the college. They decided to go solar after Spencer did, and in conversation with Spencer. So there was a lot of sharing of experiences and that kind of thing. So so this church is again the third one in West Virginia to go solar. You might have heard of the first one, Shepherdstown Presbyterian Church. I believe has won both IPL and Presbyterian for Earth Care awards for their array, which was the first in West Virginia. We've recently had a fourth one install a large solar array, and that is a Catholic church in South Charleston, Blessed Sacrament. Interestingly, all these churches have the same installer, and that installer is called Solar Holler. And if you are from the Central Appalachian region, you know very well what a holler is. It's a part of our geography. It's what some people call a hollow, or a rural road up between two mountains. Solar Holler was one of the first installers to be founded in West Virginia. They are not the last. There are 3 that are based right here in West Virginia, and then we have some coming in from out of state now. Solar Holler, however, is one of the biggest job creators in the industry right now, and they work with an organization called Coalfield Development to retrain people from energy/coal communities in West Virginia to install solar panels. So we know that all of this and working with Solar Holler is part of the energy transition that we are working towards in this state and in this region. Bruce, I'm not sure how to stop screen sharing. Someone.
I think Mindy can take care of that for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Whoever's got the dog, if you could mute, that'd be helpful. I've got one who's
Those
also
are mine.
okay. I've got a noisy one in the background too, so go ahead. Robin, do you have more to share?
That's all that I was planning to share at this point in time. I can take questions when we're in that phase of the presentation.
We'll go through a few more things to share, and then we'll move on to the questions. I was hoping that a friend would be able to join us who's not going to be here, but just want to pass on 3 little tidbits dealing with energy and churches. Some churches raise the temperature of their sanctuaries in the cold winter months under the theory that that helps protect the organ. Surveys have been done of organ manufacturers, and in point of fact, they say the colder the better for the preserving the life of the organ. So you might want to research your one who manufactured your organ, and I think you'll find the same passed on tip to keep the sanctuary fairly cold. Another tidbit is one of the most important things you can do not only for your church but for your home is to make sure the furnace has been properly calibrated for maximum efficiency, and that should be done on an annual basis at least. And I know one person who argued that that was more important than replacing windows, more energy efficient windows, because of the importance of the organ. A last little bit of trivia is some people think in the winter months they have ceiling fans in the sanctuary, and turning those on will push the hot air down to the sanctuary's area where the pews are. They have done studies with thermometers placed throughout a sanctuary trying that, and it did not change the temperature where people were sitting in the pews. It did create something that's called wind chill. So best in the winter months to keep those ceiling fans turned off. They don't help get people any more comfortable. In fact, they may make them more uncomfortable. I will put in the chat a couple of article links on dealing with an issue we heard from some folks in Florida, how to keep cool in the hotter summer months. Air conditioning, as many of us are aware, contributes to climate change, making it hotter. So if we can find alternatives to that, it can be very helpful. One of the simplest ones is natural, and that is having shade trees close to the church as well as close to our homes, providing shade also, if much as possible, covering parking lot areas, because those blacktops become heat traps and just make the surrounding areas, including churches and homes, hotter. So the more trees we can plant for all kinds of reasons, but that can help keep things cooler. A major expense for many churches is lawns, and that's unfortunate that we have not explored alternatives enough. The church I served in Delaware converted part of their large lawn into a community garden, and that was wonderful because we were able to provide food, and the people who used the garden tithe whatever they grew to give to our local food pantry. And the people at the pantry thought they won the lottery with all the fresh vegetables and fruit that they were able to get. But it also helped the church by not having to pay for it to be mowed, not having the pollution caused by the lawnmowers, which are more polluting often than cars. So it's a win-win all the way around if you can find alternatives. If you don't want to have gardens for food, you might consider clover. I want to just share briefly a simple little screenshot here of the benefits of clover. I'm trying to get my folks to explore the idea of having more clover in the cemetery, which is next to our church building, because that's mowed very frequently. But clover, as you can see here, is drought resistant, doesn't need the fertilizers, the pesticides, the herbicides. It blooms, it can grow in poor soil, it's inexpensive, it is unaffected by pets, and it rarely needs to be mowed. It looks quite pretty. So you might explore that not only for some of your church property, but also for your home property. Okay, let's see what else we want to share. Well, let's do some questions and answers, and then we'll share some Christmas gift ideas. A number of them were put in the chat, and if the presenters had a chance to look while other people were there, if not, we'll try to speed through and see if we can lift some of those up. Sarah, did you see any in the chat that you'd like to answer?
I'm just checking those now.
While they're looking, I might ask a follow-up question to Bruce. This is Jerry Reese. What about ivy as well as clover?
If you're talking on lawns, that's one thing. It can be problematic from what I understand when you start putting it on buildings.
Yeah.
You should check with the experts in that area. I think it's okay on lawns, and there are a variety of ivies. So you want to pick what's best and know the pluses and minuses to them. I've heard a lot more positive things about clover versus other plants to cover surfaces. My
Well,
preference.
clover puts nitrogen back into the soil.
Mhm.
It's a legume, I guess.
Other questions or comments? You don't have to put them in the chat. Sarah, one of the ones I did see was the comparison between Cool Congregations and the Presbyterian Earth Care Congregation program. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'll be happy to put in the chat their handbook so you can have it. But have you ever done a comparison, or has anybody else done a comparison on the Presbyterian Earth Care congregations and how they are similar or different from Cool Congregations?
I'm not as familiar with the Presbyterian Earth Care Congregation. Is it a certification?
Yes, I think Charmel, one of our steering committee members and a fellow IPL person, had her hand up. And Charmel, please share.
Well, I have not done a comparison, but I have been engaged in both. Since I'm a Presbyterian, I've been through both processes. So here's how I see it. The Presbyterians for Earth Care, that process is very broad and contains a lot of categories, like how often do you have outdoor worship services? How often in worship do you mention caring for creation? It also involves includes some things like have you reduced your use of disposables, and do you recycle? There are a lot of categories, but they don't go real deep. Now, my experience with the IPL certification process is it goes very deep in a few categories, like how much electricity are you using? What is the source of that electricity? How much are you reducing your carbon emissions by making a transition to a different form of energy? So those are some of the differences I see, but some other people can speak to that also.
I can just give a simple response. The certification program that IPL offers, we just look at the reduction of gas and electric made at a congregation that has made permanent changes to their facility. So we're just looking at the reduction of gas and electric. And so therefore we require the before and after numbers of your gas and electric before your project and 12 months after your project is complete. So we can see what % you have reduced your carbon footprint of your facility through permanent changes. So
Thank
it's much more specific, and it's a one-time certification. You don't have to re-up it every year. You're welcome to come back once you've made more changes and get an even higher level of certification. That's awesome. But that, I think, thank you, Charmel. I just wanted to add that little bit.
And as I said, I did put the guide for both Cool Congregations and for Earth Care congregations in the chat with links. Pam, did I see your hand up there?
Yeah, I had a question for Jerry about these EV charging stations. I wanted to know what kind they are. Are they rapid charging stations or a slower kind?
Yeah, thanks, Pam. And Bruce, I went through the chat and made notes on, because there were several questions directed at me.
Go for it.
So I'll just start. The answer to Bob Groth's question about public use, our partnership with Evolve Kentucky requires the congregations that install these charging stations make them fully available to the public. So it is
Keeping with love your neighbor.
100% public access. Pam McVitie's, they are the rapid charging stations because who wants to sit around in a church parking lot, random church parking lot for God knows how long. So they are the rapid ones. There is no charge to users. There is no charge to users. That's in response to Bob Groth's thing. The covenant establishes that the church will cover the electrical charges, the increase in the electric bill. But the experience over the first year of these has been that the average has been about $120 a year. That's $12 a month and that's the average. So some of the churches where the stations are used more extensively, of course, their bill might go up higher, but that's understood going in, that the church is going to absorb the increase in the electrical bill. And the other one was about infrastructure. Steve Snotterly asked about that. If there is anything other than just the expense of running a line from the church out to the charging stations, that is part of the grant that is made. If more extensive infrastructure is needed, we can't run this program and have, churches redoing their whole electrical grid, for, under the guise of putting in electrical vehicle charging stations. So anything other than the normal costs of running a line out to where the charging stations are going to be placed and the installation and maintenance of them after they're installed is absorbed by the church if additional infrastructure is needed beyond what's normal for running an extra line somewhere.
Thank you, Jerry.
And the stations are not pay for use. That was another thing in Steve Snotter. They are at no charge to the user.
Have any of the churches gotten new members because people stopped and were so grateful they checked out the church while they were waiting?
Wouldn't we wish that all of these great stewardship things that we do would turn into more butts in the seats? We haven't. I have no idea. In our congregation, I haven't had anybody that's come in on the Sundays that I've been the greeter and said, "Oh yeah, I showed up because I was able to charge my vehicle for free." We don't know.
Well, consider a pamphlet. If you like our charge, check us out inside. All right, Jane, you've been waiting patiently. Did you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I would like to add to the Earth Care congregations conversation if I could.
Please.
I do definitely agree with what Charmel said, that it is much broader than the IPL Cool Congregations. It actually covers 4 different areas of church life, and those are worship, education, facilities, and outreach. So you can see that it is much broader. It does seem to me that Cool Congregations just focuses on energy use. Am I correct in that, Sarah?
Yes, for the certification program, it's just energy use.
Okay.
The contest covers a lot of different areas.
Mhm.
Certification, just gas and electric.
And if I could just add one more thing, the application is really an audit. So yeah, there are a lot of things you can check off or not, but it also gives you many ideas for what you can do if you're not already doing them. Thank you.
I will point out Jane is the vice moderator of Presbyterians Earth Care, former coordinator for Presbyterians for Earth Care, and I believe one of the authors of the original handbook for Presbyterians Earth Care congregations.
Congregations, yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Do we have other people with questions? Pam, you got another one or a statement? If you use the little feature at the bottom of the Zoom where it says reactions, raise your hand, we can easily see you at the top of the screen that way. Pam, did you have something to say?
Yeah, Jerry, did I understand that you started out with a $96,000 pot of money for this program? Okay.
If we have the grieving process of churches closing, putting some of that money towards this, I think is good idea by a presbytery. Okay, we have another hand up. Could you please share your question or comment?
Is that me, I think?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm from Westminster Presbyterian in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I was wondering if this organization also serves other states and what is their contact information. We already have solar and we've been contemplating putting on a charger.
Jerry, you want to clarify that?
Yeah. I don't think this would, I didn't put up the URL for Evolve Kentucky because it is strictly a Kentucky organization. It doesn't have the wherewithal to expand. So I figured it was kind of pointless to put the URL in, but I will if people would just like to explore what kind of a program it is and see if maybe there's something going on where they are. But this is strictly a Kentucky program.
There's
as well.
the IRA, Sarah, I believe does include some funding for charging stations, doesn't it? For nonprofits?
Yes, it does.
So folks will definitely want to explore that as it evolves. I put in the chat the link to the White House Clean Energy, where you can get a subscription of the latest as it rolls out the different funding sources for churches and other nonprofits. I was part of a church in Delaware, which was the first one to get solar panels. And we found that a number of people in the community contributed towards that cost because they were so grateful for a church doing that. And you may find the same is true in your community beyond your church members to help cover the cost of a charging station. So you might want to explore that as an option as well. I hope that you found that helpful. Is that okay? Rob, you want, or do you have more questions or clarification? Well, thank you, Santa Fe. Rob, what's your question or comment? You have to unmute, Rob.
Okay. Now you can hear me. Our church, this is for Sarah. Our church is currently negotiating to get solar panels with a provider, but we've sort of slowed down waiting to get clarification for how we apply for the IRA grants or whatever we call them. How do you have a handy place to find out how we do that? And can you point me to that?
Well, they haven't developed the guidelines yet. And so by signing up for that newsletter that Bruce posted in chat and by signing up for the IPL newsletter, then you'll be notified when those guidelines become available. So they're still working on it out. And some of the programs are going to require states to develop guidelines in addition to the federal guidelines. So it may take a little while.
So I just re-put in the White House Gov/Clean Energy. Okay, and I think you'll find that useful. When in doubt, talk to your local representative and senator to tell them to get the government to move faster. They voted for the funds and they should get them available out there for ours to counter climate change sooner than later. I do, let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, here we go. So just to let you see a hint of what this looks like, and then we'll go on to the next one. I just want to highlight this wonderful website. So this is the White House Gov, and then it's Clean Energy right there. And if you scroll down on this web page, you see these dots. All these are different places that the Inflation Reduction Act will provide some assistance. And what is true for homes, I think, is also true for churches as well. So all these different dots, and if you click it, you'll see they give you, more detail about it. And if you continue to scroll down, you can click these things and they will send you additional information, give you samples. So well worth checking out. Okay, let's go back. Judy, you had a question? You have to unmute.
There we go. I would just tell people to check with their electric utility about programs they may have funding set aside to sort of mine energy conservation or power conservation within properties that they serve. So our church is in line to receive some $20,000 worth of relamping work on our property. And we only have to put in a 10% match of about $2,000. It'll pay off really quickly. We are having a little bit of problem with the city approving some of the lighting issues, but that should clear up. And we're expecting to get this, this free, help putting in LEDs throughout our campus that we haven't changed over as of yet. Also, I wanted to mention rewiringamerica.org as a website, not so much for your church, probably as for you personally, is a site that's going to have a lot of information. And it has a calculator now that can tell you on a personal, for your home, what you can probably get either tax credits or grants for, discounts on major machines in your house, like your heat pump water, getting a heat pump water heater or a space heater. So.
Thank you.
my-
Thank
Mhm.
you. I put in the chat also a link to the Energy Star Action Workbook for congregations. This is a resource that's been developed and continually revised. The latest revision was just done in April this year. So a lot of the information in that workbook is pretty current, not including the Inflation Reduction Act funding, but it still has a lot of very helpful information. We are going to, I think, probably stop the recording at this point, but we're going to before we do that, we'll do briefly some Christmas gift ideas for last minute shoppers, or if you have family members that want to get you something and you haven't thought to ask for it. We'll start off with our coordinator. Mindy is a wonderful blessing to this organization, and she just recently hosted a seminar with the co-author of an incredible resource, and I believe I saw that Suzanne is here tonight. But Mindy, why don't you give a plug for the climate-friendly cooking resource?
Okay, sure. We recently did a webinar on cooking for, actually, I forget what it was called, Eating for a Friendly Climate. And we hosted Suzanne Jones, who is a co-editor. There's actually many authors in the cookbook. She's a co-editor of a cookbook called Climate Friendly Cooking. And I'm going to put that in the chat in just a second. It's 111 recipes to help save the planet. They're in their second edition. And it's through Montclair Presbyterian Church in California. And I let her know that we were doing this webinar tonight and asked her what did she suggest if people wanted to order copies of the cookbook, which is, whoops. Okay, there we go. It's spiral bound, really nice. I've actually made 6 or 8 recipes out of this in the past month. And she said that if you order it, let's see, it take about a week to arrive. So you should order it by Friday or Saturday at the latest. If you're interested in looking at that. One really neat thing about the webinar that she did was it went over some things that are at the beginning of the cookbook that are all about how what we choose to eat impacts the climate. And it really focused in on the details of how what we eat impacts the climate. So I will go ahead and put that link in the chat for you now. I actually ordered 6 copies myself to give as gifts. So I'll go ahead and mute and I will share that link.
You can't get a better endorsement than I ordered 6 copies for a family. That's a wonderful one. Just a few ideas to throw out. I'm not a fan of people, including myself, having huge, bright electric displays celebrating Jesus' birth out on their lawns. I like the simplicity of candles in the windows And of late, we got this candle, which is solar powered. And we have had these in our windows. We are liked them so much we didn't take them out of the windows, and they have continued to go off and on for over 2 years without having any maintenance issues at all, other than the suction cups occasionally didn't keep them up. But it really was an amazing gift. We would always recommend Rebecca Barr's book if you don't have it, especially in the revised edition, 50 Ways to Help Save the Earth. Our Presbyterian Westminster John Knox publishes this one. Well worth picking up. We got this earlier in the year. This is an induction cooktop.
It's just a cooktop.
If you're familiar with this, this uses 90% less energy than gas or electricity. Gas has all kinds of indoor pollution problems as well as environmental problems. 90%, and I will tell you as a former cook at Perkins, it cooks just as quickly as gas, and it's very easy to control. It's great. It's one of the best purchases. My wife had a Lenten challenge that she wanted to see if she could cook all of our meals with the one cooktop, and it worked out amazingly well, and we used 90% less electricity. So it's a great resource. Keeping the house colder is very important. Having a variety of hats to do it in can keep one at least warmer and healthier. If you have children, a solar flashlight can be a lot of fun. And this one actually also has a USB charger, 1,000 lumas. It's quite bright, and kids like that. If you happen to like chocolate, I highly recommend the Fair Trade chocolates, and they have little mini ones you can buy these days, so you maybe don't overindulge, but doctors recommend dark chocolate. My wife, a couple years ago, got a gift at the recommendation of our daughter. Speaking about keeping the house colder, this is called a Comfy, and she says this is one of the better gifts I've ever given her for Christmas because it's very warm, and we also are able to keep the thermostat a bit lower because of it. Anybody else have a quick idea for things that are helpful for the environment for Christmas gifts? Yes.
We used to buy live Christmas trees and planted them in our garden. Well, one of them did very well in the front of the house. And now that is our Christmas tree. But we found solar Christmas lights.
Mm-hmm.
And we ordered them, and they are working beautifully this year.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Charmel?
So when I look for Christmas gifts for friends and family members, I try to look for things that are local, that come from local providers. And two things that I've done in the past that I recommend, local honey from local beekeepers. That makes a wonderful gift. And another thing is to buy bars of soap from local artisans. The soap that's maybe comes in a little paper bag or is wrapped in paper. So not only are you buying something from a local artisan, but also there's no plastic involved, like there is with liquid soap in a plastic container. So those are two ideas for low-cost gift giving. If you can't give somebody a cooktop.
That's wonderful. And I would add, of course, you can always give a gift in honor of a loved one to Presbyterians for Earth Care. Jane, what would you like to share with us?
Yeah, I like the practice of giving experiences rather than things. So, for example, since I will be visiting my son for Christmas and he has 2 children, I'm going to give him and his wife an evening out with grandma babysitting and maybe even some money to pay for dinner, if they will do that.
Very, very nice. All right, we are over the hour. Is there anybody else who'd like to share something? We'll turn off the recording, and if you have additional questions,